Welcome to the Den, the Dark Entertainment Network. I'm the Gothic Rose, and this is the dark tale of the day. Yes, dear fiends of the Den, the Dark Entertainment Network is a channel where the news meets conspiracy theories. It makes babies in my brain and it comes out my mouth. We explore the darkest stories from the deepest corners of Hollywood and the world. If you like this sort of entertainment, be sure to like, follow, and hit that bell because I am not going to stop. Hello, dear fiends of the Den. It is the haunted history of Hollywood, and I am back today because I was just talking about the first talkie film, The Jazz Singer, when we last left off because I have now been distracted by the Epstein files. But today we are talking about its star, dubbed the world's greatest entertainer, Al Jolson, and his controversies. But are they really controversies? Tune in and find out. So, who was Al Jolson? He was born Asa Jolson in Lithuania in 1886, and he immigrated to the US and became one of the most famous entertainers of the early 20th century, known for his dynamic stage presence, sentimental singing style, and pioneering role in musical theater and film. Of course, he is not without his controversies of performing in blackface when starring in the 1927 first talkie film, The Jazz Singer, which was also the first feature-length film with synchronized sound. And this marked the end of the silent film era. And of course, his famous line, "You ain't heard nothing yet," became symbolic of the talkie revolution. And as film has grown, that statement was incredibly true. But Jolson performed in blackface. Now, in 1917 and the early 20s, even before that, it was a theatrical convention of the time. Of course, today, it is recognized as deeply, deeply offensive and racist. So no photos will be shown to offend anyone. We'll just talk about it. Now, his legacy. Sorry about that static. His legacy really is complicated because of performing in blackface. Because some say, so there's two sides to this. Some say he helped popularize African American music, but at the same time, he perpetuated harmful stereotypes. And there's so much to this because many historians argue on one side that he did support Black artists and fought discrimination on Broadway. But there's others that highlight the problematic nature of his performances because Jolson sang songs, but he also introduced these songs to white audiences like Swanee, My Mammy, and Toot Toot Tootsie. When we say mainstream audiences, that's white audiences. But his influence, he went on to influence performers like Bing Crosby and Elvis Presley, who also performed a lot of African American music and gospel music themselves. So Al Jolson really never left behind like a comprehensive statement. He never condemned and he never defended his use of blackface, but his actions and public persona offer clues to how he viewed it. So let's dive in. Again, purely from Al Jolson's point of view, he reportedly saw blackface as theatrical makeup and not a racial statement. He used it to portray characters in the minstrel tradition, which was common in the early 20th century and the entertainment that surrounded everything. He was known to champion Black performers in music. He helped bring African American musical styles to white audiences and supported artists like U.B. Blake and Noble Sissle. In a 1945 appearance on The Milton Berle Show, Jolson spoke about racial and ethnic tolerance, suggesting that he saw himself as a bridge between cultures. Now, again, on one hand, some contemporaries, including Black artists, defend him as someone who's used his fame to fight discrimination, while others criticized the blackface tradition as inherently demeaning. Now, this whole legacy debate is Al Jolson's defenders argue that he was not racist, but rather a product of his time who secretly admired Black culture. And critics point out that regardless of intent, blackface perpetuated harmful stereotypes and excluded Black performers from leading roles. So while Al Jolson didn't publicly justify his use of blackface in a modern sense, but how could he? He was not in modern times. His career suggested that he saw it as a theatrical tool. And this is one he believed he could honor and not mock. So the contradiction between intent and impact is what makes the Al Jolson legacy so complex. If you go back into my haunted Hollywood history at the time, the most famous Black filmmaker of the silent film era is Oscar Micheaux. And he was a complete cinematic trailblazer because he made films with literally no budget, and he tackled racial injustice, lynching, economic oppression, and interracial relationships. And his first film was The Homesteader, and it was in direct response to the film The Birth of a Nation, which is inherently racist. Now, The Birth of a Nation came out in 1915, and it was shown at the White House, and the use of blackface in that film was meant to degrade the African American community. So in 1917, Oscar Micheaux comes out with his films to counteract and talk about racism. So let's get into this discussion and tell me what you think of Al Jolson. Controversial or cultural and film phenomena? Let me know. And thank you for joining me in the den.
If you have any stories you'd like to share or would like to be a guest in the den, please email me at welcometothedenpodcast@gmail.com. Must be 21 and over. And if you like dark, creepy stories as much as I do here in the den, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And as always, thank you for joining me here at the Dark Entertainment Network.